Africa Report on Sabahul Muslim.
Well, for this week's Africa Report, we are joined by Saeed Abdallah, who is a Sudanese journalist based in Johannesburg. We focus on the humanitarian crisis in Sudan's North Darfur, which is reaching a critical point. The besieged city of Al-Fashir has seen escalating violence, with the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, known as the RSF, accused of targeting civilian shelters with drone and artillery strikes. At least 90 people were killed in just 10 days. The United Nations is warning of a potential for ethnically driven atrocities if the violence continues. Now, as the siege tightens, tens of thousands are trapped and humanitarian access remains severely limited. Saeed, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me.
So let me ask, or start off by asking you to give us an overview of the current conditions in Al-Fashir and how the siege is impacting civilians.
Al-Fashir, the capital of North Darfur, is enduring one of the most desperate phases of Sudan's war. The city has been under siege by the Rapid Support Forces for months now, I think over a year now. And in recent days, which is the last over the weekend, strikes on a civilian shelter killed at least 60 people, many of them women and children. So we saw that hospitals, displacement centers, and even mosques have been repeatedly hit. Entire families remain trapped under rubble, and survivors describe people burned alive inside temporary shelters. Residents are digging bunkers into their homes just to stay alive. The siege has cut off food, fuel, and medicine, spreading hunger and diseases among the people in Al-Fashir. Local resistance committees say that the city is now losing roughly 30 people every day to the violence that's going on at the moment. And we saw starvation, we saw illness all around Al-Fashir. So in short, the city is facing a humanitarian catastrophe, a city under siege where civilians have become the front line.
So the UN has warned of possible ethnically motivated atrocities. What evidence supports this, and how serious is the threat?
The UN sounding the alarm over the risk of ethnically motivated atrocities in Al-Fashir, according to the UN Human Rights Chief, Mr. Volker Turk. He said between September 19 and 29, the cities, or there's a part of the city called Derja Ula neighborhood, came under repeated RSF drone and artillery attacks, as well as ground incursion, apparently targeting areas largely inhabited by non-Arab communities. So Turks described credible reports of civilians being tortured or executed by RSF fighters for attempting to bring food into the besieged city. And he said that the militia continues to block humanitarian supplies, deepening hunger and despair. He said, and he warned as well, that without immediate international action to uphold the laws of war and protect civilians, Al-Fashir could witness large scale of ethnically driven attacks and atrocities. So in other words, the warning is not hypothetically. The early signs are already there, and the risk of another massive scale atrocity in Darfur is both serious and imminent if there is no international community interference.
Now, there has been talk for quite some time that the international community needs to play a more significant part. How likely is that now in terms of de-escalating the conflict and ensuring at least that aid reaches those in need?
So, talking about this issue, we've been saying that for a long time. Without a unified international community stance, like bringing all the stakeholders, the the AU, the Gulf countries, the UN, US, and the UN as well, all of them should have a unified stand on the Sudanese conflict. And they have to put pressure on both parties to have a ceasefire, to stop the war, to let the humanitarian aid reach to the people on the ground. Without that pressure, we cannot get to we cannot solve the humanitarian crisis at the moment. And I think if the international community could came with the plan to fix the Gaza the Gaza crisis at the moment, they can also like reach a point where like they can come with a plan as well, like to put pressure on this both factions to stop the war and to find a political path of this war. Because as long as we saw here in this war that there is no military solution, and only that the civilian are enduring and suffering from this war, and without any hope, like as we can see at the moment. So only with the pressure on the warring factors, and as well as like with the facilitate and with the help of the humanitarian aid to access to the people and to get to the people in desperate need, especially in Darfur area.
So now that there's a bit of a slower period in the Gaza situation, if one can even call it that, because of the ceasefire, are you optimistic that there will be greater global focus now on Sudan?
I hope so. I hope so, because what we saw now, like that has been, Sudan was overshadowed by the Gaza crisis. And now, if we can find a solution for Gaza, I think that the people can turn their eyes to what's going on in Sudan at the moment. And because also, if the international community cannot fix it at the moment, this can spread to the other areas of the continent and the Eastern Africa, and this, I think that the neighboring countries are started to suffering from the consequences of the war in Sudan. So indeed, yeah, I think after Gaza conflict, the international community can turn its eye, and we already started to see that. But how it's gonna be, I think it needs more of negotiation and more of compromise between all of these stakeholders, as well as like the warring factors factions, I mean, like in order to reach to a point. But there's two elements here I would like to emphasize. The first one is the internal one. It's the internal, that's all these political forces and all of these Sudanese representative should come to the negotiation table. I think we need to get a unified Sudanese-led political solution to this conflict, supported by the international community. That's the only. It's going to be the long-standing or the solution that can help the situation in Sudan.
Inshallah. Saeed, shukran so much for your time, as always.
Shukran.
That was this week's Africa Report with a focus on Sudan. Saeed Abdallah is a Sudanese journalist based in Johannesburg. Coming up to